And we're rolling in and going free, ladies and gentlemen. Great to see you all. I see JK160, Mrs. Jez Horse, and there's a young lady. Kate, how are you? And we see a Casey, and the great gentleman Rory Herbert is with us. We should have all of the normal platforms up and running properly. Let me know if you can hear me okay. Azimuth Clark is here. Anglo-Saxon is here. And who else do we see? Potter's Crown, Darth Vader, Franklin, Fornull, the great Fornull is with us. 0022. We're going to go ahead and get into this. If you have any questions or comments over the course of this roll in, please make sure you tag me or you financially gift at Entropy, Odyssey, or Cash App. I'll be keeping an eye on all of them. I'll read all financial gifts, questions, comments, and try to get to everybody's questions or comments if you have any. Otherwise, we're going to be here probably not terribly long. Anglo-Saxon, great to see you as well. Zen Master Me is with us. Hello to you. We're going to jump on over. Have you ever heard of TheQuaerting? And we will add him to the screen right now. Let's see. And hopefully, since people are allowed to do crazy things on YouTube, I won't get a strike or the channel deleted for simply commenting on somebody else's video. We'll see, though. We'll see what can happen. Here we go. There's the orbicular fellow. No insult intended by that. He seems to tell a lot of jokes and is probably okay with it. Promethean blessings. Back to you, Mrs. Jess Horse. Thank you so much. Happy and blessed Good Friday from Casey. Thank you indeed. Foster Kennel. Good to see you, brother. Professor Pandemic, hello. Yes, it was a mighty fine picking and digging, indeed. So, looks like Cash App still doesn't work on the computer, so maybe they'll fix that at some point. No, not as orbicular as Chantel. Indeed, not nearly. Let's hear what he has to say. He has 261, well, 260 we'll say, because it's 258, 260,000 views and over 1 million of subs. So I'm guessing he has some great takes. So let's hear what he has to say about Musk and the back and forth with Twitter. And over the course of the conversation, what we're going to do is we'll go through this video as quickly as possible, then take a dip into a news story about the issue, and we'll touch upon a message from Torba to Elon Musk, Andrew Torba, the CEO of Gab, and then we will get to my belief on why Musk is doing this. If I don't end up, if I'm able to hold out that long to the end, maybe so, but maybe not. We'll see.
Everyone, Jeremy here from TheQuaerting, and Elon Musk wins no matter what. In fact,
so he says here, and it's in the title, that Elon wins no matter what. So I suppose he's going to tell us how that is, because I don't see it as optimistically as that. But let's hear.
Even if the board considers not accepting his offer to purchase, he can still buy out Twitter, even if his offer is refused, which is absolutely hilarious.
Is that true?
On top of,
I mean, I think there are things that boards can do to thwart hostile takeovers, but
Twitter staff now holding an emergency all hands on deck meeting. Elon Musk is single-handedly disrupting the entire space as everyone continues to melt down on Twitter.
I agree with that. That he is disrupting the entire space. We're going to speed him up a little bit. That he's disrupting the entire space, but the question is why, and the question is to what end.
Aspects of it turning into Parler just because Elon Musk owns it. Nothing will really change environmentally on Twitter, other than maybe a few less insane bans. I don't think Elon Musk is going to go in there and just be like, unban Trump and unban Babylon.
Well, that depends. I mean, maybe Jeremy here understands or has some sort of an insight into Musk's maybe he's speaking to him, and what he wants to do. But what will change there? What would change there should Musk become owner and take the company private? Will depend upon what his motivation was and what his objectives are.
B and maybe Babylon B, but like I just don't.
It's interesting that folks give these takes with so little knowledge, but the takes are all about the money that their audience gives them, rather than objectively serving, like for us, in the recapture of our destiny.
Don't see that, but who knows? Like Elon is literally the wild card meme, and
you shouldn't put too much. And this whole episode is another warning to people to not put faith in the wealthy, the powerful, because just because they're able to make shopping centers appear near you and this sort of thing, doesn't mean that they can just turn anti-whiteism in Western civilization around. They can't. We just had a great example. Now that was that was discernible by way of reason and logic prior to Trump, but now it's demonstrable. You can actually point. It wasn't that long ago that if we only had a billionaire that became president.
It's hilarious to me. The whole thing is hilarious to me. And before we get into it, just a super quick word from this video sponsor. Huge shout out to this.
Rory asks if it was a good idea for his wife to buy stock in Twitter. Did you just do it? Is that what you wrote? Just bought stock in Twitter. Do you think that was a good or a bad idea? Well, it's really up in the air right now with what's going to end up happening. I would I'm not going to give advice because YouTube will probably give me a strike for that. But if it were me, I would keep a close eye. And if the price of the stock jumps dramatically short term relative to the purchase price, I would probably dump it because of the volatility. Unless you have money to play with, to sort of gamble with, and the loss isn't too big, then it's, if that's the case, then it's fine. You can just sit it out.
Daily Wire, it's get out the popcorn time. Elon Musk could still buy Twitter even if his offer is refused, and here's how. Even if Twitter's
okay, so I hope he's going to tell us.
Twitter's board rejects Elon Musk's proposal to buy the company. Musk could still target stockholders either by seeking proxy votes or purchasing their shares in the so-called hostile takeover, thus taking over the company.
Theoretically, that is possible, but you're dealing with how can we call the units? If you want to just for the moment refer to people as units, and these units are not driven primarily by on average by financial considerations, and it is erroneous to think. Too many people have incorrectly concluded that for too long. That's how we got to a state, the state that we're in right now, relative to our destiny and how much of it we control, how little of it we control. The human animal is spiritual, is religious. It's seeking spirituality and this religious expression everywhere, all the time. The anti-whites gave this animal, these units, these individual units, they gave them the religion, if you will, the quasi-religion of anti-whiteism. And that moves folks more so. And the great example here is that the leaders of Twitter are willing, to their detriment, to the tune of who knows how many millions of dollars, to harm themselves in order to satisfy financially, in order to satisfy themselves religiously. with the anti-white outcomes. So anti-white shareholders is what they're talking about making an appeal to, as though this is taking place in a vacuum where everybody is purely driven by economic considerations. And that is simply not the case. You wouldn't put it past anti-whites to find out everyone who is considering selling and publishing their addresses. I mean, they've done this with financial supporters of Republicans. And check with CNN to make sure that's correct. Let's roll.
Company. Hostile takeover occurs when an outside entity tries to take over a company without the management's consent. Thursday morning, Musk tendered an offer of $54.20 per share. The current market price of Twitter is $45.85. Musk could make that offer directly to shareholders. If Twitter's board rejects the offer, Investopedia notes that investor or shareholders could often accept the tender offer when it is sufficient premium to the market value, or if they're unhappy with current management.
All right, so that's another consideration. The talking about investors as and anthropomorphizing this category as though it is a living single human being that that will think and respond in a I guess an incentivized fashion for its economic well-being, and that is another erroneous way to view what's taking place, and you can only come to incorrect conclusions. This is not including what the anti-white leadership of Twitter will do to thwart, and we'll read about that in a moment, to thwart a takeover, even if that is Musk's desire. So it's seeming more and more like this title is for an economic purpose, and that being for Jeremy's.
Another avenue Musk could take, encouraging stockholders to urge other stockholders to let them use their proxy votes. Then, having gathered enough proxies, having them vote to accept Elon Musk's offer. But Twitter could conceivably respond by issuing a blank check preferred stock to defend itself from a hostile takeover. Now,
so he's reading I just want to make sure I'm going to say this out loud. He's reading an article for his video. I'm watching him responding to his reading of the article, and just want to make sure I say that. So if any anti-white at YouTube decides that I'm infringing upon his creation,
I'm not a investment person. You know, I've got an IRA and I've got a few stocks in blank check preferred stock. A company must amend its articles of incorporation to create a new class of unissued shares. Twitter doesn't have the dual share classes that many public tech companies do. Like,
okay, that's true. That this is one of the things we talked about before, where so many people are misled by the reality that they've grown up with this idea of democracy, and so everybody, if you own a thing, even if it's just a portion, you own a vote, you own a say, and that's simply not the case when it comes to corporations. Twitter is a little bit different, but in most corporations, they set up different tiers of voters and decision makers.
Those systems leave voting rights controlled, with the company's founders protecting them against a Musk. Without this, Twitter could adopt a so-called poison pill plan, a costly move where it sells stock at a discount to dilute an aggressive shareholder stake. Essentially, Elon Musk wins no matter what here. First of all, he could walk.
Okay, let's hear what he's going to say, because I'm very curious how he wins. If they were to multiply the stock, of course, that would be that would undermine the financial well-being of their investors. But go ahead and be an investor and try to sue. Good luck on that. So even though it would be illegal, you don't have a hope in hell of success.
Walk away from the deal $1 billion richer, assuming they're what here?
Right.
First of all, he could walk away from the deal $1 billion richer, assuming that the stock doesn't get worse.
How could he walk away $1 billion richer? Does anybody know?
Right now, Twitter stock doesn't really know what to do. It's down slightly on the day, but I mean, it's largely up over the last month since Elon's news broke. He could force Twitter into investing a bunch of money just to.
I guess he's saying if he sold all that he bought right now, as though that wouldn't decrease the value as soon as he started selling all of it.
Keep him out, which would be hilarious as well. And or he's a bunch of money just to keep him out, which would be. He could force Twitter into investing a bunch of money just to keep him out, which would be hilarious as well. And or he could turn their existing shareholders against them. Analyst Dan I.
No. Again, that is an erroneous conclusion based on the fiction that people are motivated purely by economic considerations. Is TheQuaerting a conservative?
I've told the Washington Post that the next step will be Twitter's board officially reviewing the Musk filing a letter, and then it's get out the popcorn time, as we expect many twists and turns in the weeks ahead as Twitter and Musk walk down this marriage path. We've already seen the Twitter board come out here. Twitter says board is carefully reviewing Elon's bid for the company. The Twitter board of directors will carefully review the proposal to determine the course of action that it believes is in the best interest of the company and Twitter stockholders.
No, of course. That's nonsense. That's just, they're going to, these are the pretexts that the board will make as they take steps that will undermine the value and profitability of the shareholders. If they're carrying out what it sounds like.
The company said that and confirmed it's received Musk's bid valuing the company at $43.4 billion. His offer at $54.20 a share, which was disclosed in regulatory filing on Thursday, represents a 38% premium on Twitter's April 1st close, the last trading day before Tesla's CEO is more than.
That's a ton of money. Wow. Think of all the good that could be done. And this is just a great example. We have to learn from the failures. You can't. Is there anybody out there that is still hoping for a billionaire that's going to just sweep in and save the day, and he or she is just going to make it happen? You get to sit on your fat ass, because if that's what you're hoping for, just turn this shit off. Stop worrying about politics and go eat your fat ass into a grave, because you are retarded. That's never going to happen. You just had Trump demonstrate that to you. They can steal an election or not from anybody they want, anywhere in the world. And you're going to put faith in a billionaire or some other powerful person sweeping in inside of their system. The only answer is you have to change the units, the people, the individual people. You have to change the story that's in their heads. And you'll see, as I've been hearing all day about all of these engines that are beginning to move against Musk simultaneously. It is not as fat fools like Alex Jones would have you believe that there's this, or some of the cult nat types would have you believe that there's this group that orchestrates it all. No, it's all of these units acting of their own volition, because they might be wetware instead of hardware, but they're nonetheless programmable. And they've been programmed to respond a specific way in a given context.
The 9% stake in the company was made public. Since making my investment, I now realize the company will neither strive nor serve in the societal imperative. My offer is the best and final offer, and if not accepted, I'm going to need to reconsider my position as a shareholder. Essentially saying, I'm going to take my $1 billion or my $5 billion, 9% share, and go home. And earlier this week, Musk said he had abandoned.
I don't know what that means. I'm going to take my billions of dollars and 9.5% shares and go home.
And a plan to join Twitter's board just as his tenure was about to start, meaning it's kind of just like what we thought. Essentially, he said, forget it, I'll just go buy you. If you're not going to let me do what I want and be on the board, I'll just buy you. And Twitter staff is in full-blown panic. Twitter reportedly told.
Yeah, and why they're in panic needs to be communicated to our people. It's because they're anti-white, and they don't want anything interfering with the ideology of anti-whiteism. And the inability to censor, to ban those who are not anti-white enough is problematic for anti-whites.
To hold an all-hands meeting with all employees at 2 p.m. today to discuss Elon Musk's bid for the company. Twitter will hold an all-hands meeting with employees at 2 p.m. Pacific time Thursday to discuss Elon's unsolicited bid for the company. CNBC anchor Carl Quintanilla tweeted an unnamed source. Yeah, I would imagine if you're an employee of the company, I don't know. There's a lot of people that are very worried, though. Elon Musk revealed Thursday that he started a takeover bid on Twitter days after it was revealed he'd become the company's largest shareholder. While many Twitter users celebrated the news, others have expressed concern that Musk would allow the platform to become too similar to conservative.
He's not the largest shareholder anymore.
Social, a baseless narrative that sticks around Elon. The people that don't like him on Twitter think he's like some kind of traditional conservative, that he's going to like ban, criticizing, he's going to make the Bible like everybody's homepage or something like that. It's insane. Like, Elon is not a
that's not what they fear.
He's probably
that's not what they fear. That's a total misunderstanding of anti-whites and anti-whiteism. Regrettably, it's being communicated to hundreds of thousands of people.
His own type of category. I'm assuming he's financially conservative, as the guy's got 50 billion.
No, he's the opposite of financially conservative. What the fuck are people watching here? This guy has jeopardized every single dollar he has had repeatedly. What the are you talking about?
Bank goes on. A hostile takeover by Musk will turn Twitter into MySpace, True Social, and Parler. Having the money to buy social media platform isn't the same.
That's just as we've talked about before. The human animal will rarely reveal the real motivation, the real concern, and so these things are just that sort of a claim that is going to turn. He's going to turn it into MySpace. It's just a scare tactic for what they're really concerned about, which is that he will interfere with anti-whiteism, the ability to inflict that, their ability to control the population, because that's what they do, like they do here on YouTube. They control the population. They control what you think by controlling what you know and what you think you know about things. That's how it works.
Him as knowing how to keep one afloat. Sure, but again, Elon Musk doesn't need to know anything. It's not like all the employees quit. I mean, some might.
In my opinion, though, of course, it's my opinion. You need to check with CNN. They get it all right.
Idiots will, but I mean, he'll restaff that. It's not like Elon's going to come in and run the day-to-day. How many days a week do you think Elon is sitting at the SpaceX facility or even a Tesla facility? During crunch time, important times, he's there, right?
What are you talking about? This guy has slept in the actual engineers. What are they? What is it called there in the factory? What is that space called? Like the lobby. He has slept there.
Build the Model 3 factory, sleeping on the floor, this and that. But ultimately, the systems are already in place to keep the company afloat and to keep things running as normal. And to be quite frank, all these clowns who are like, I'm going to close my Twitter account and leave. Well, how did it work for conservatives? Did it work when they all ran to Parler or Getter or Gab? No, it doesn't work. Yes, Parler and Gab have loyal followings that should be respected. But it's just like when Trump won the election in 2016, when everyone's like, I'm going to move to Canada. No, you're not. Because we'll find out, just like Donald Trump, that many of these lefties who are obsessed.
Okay, so what he's saying is that the anti-whites won't leave Twitter. But of course, if Twitter were, from the anti-white point of view, compromised, and they could not control contradictory evidence that on its face, prima facie, undermined anti-white claims about what's taking place in the world, what motivations there are. Think about Twitter, for example. What was Twitter involved in? Well, Twitter was essential. It was essential to the process of convincing the population that the Trump campaign was colluding with Russia and that was what got him elected. Come to find out, according to many, but of course we're here on YouTube where the anti-whites are in charge. Come to find out, none of that was true. But check it out for yourself. Check it out for yourself. You also have Twitter instrumental in preventing the truth about Biden's son and the laptop and all of that, everybody getting banned everywhere, getting banned on YouTube, getting banned on Twitter. And of course, you can go now and check, see for yourself. Was it true? What was any of that stuff true? How about Twitter also being instrumental in the conveying the anti-white narrative, falsehood that white police officers brutalize non-white people, which was the fulcrum. Twitter was necessary for the process of like well over $1 billion worth of damage in the United States. It was absolutely instrumental. So if Twitter, from an anti-white point of view, is compromised, and when they tell their lies there, their anti-white lies, those anti-white lies are able to be contradicted and defeated, then they will leave. They would not be able to handle the light of truth. And so that's why they don't allow it. That's why they cut your tongue out. That's why they censor you. So yeah, they would leave. The users would leave.
So Twitter or who say they're going to leave Twitter, they're just.
I honestly don't think this is a bad guy. I don't know anything about him. I didn't know I would be disagreeing with him so much.
Addicted as Trump is. There are people that miss Trump every day, and not all of them are conservatives. Okay, there were entire accounts or identities being Trump reply guys. So don't tell me that these radical leftists are going to leave the platform. They're just not going to. And the idea that it's going to turn into Parler, why would it? It's already got a built-in platform. Hoot's message set off comments from many people who agree with the sentiment, some invoking the name of Parler. If Elon purchases Twitter and transforms it into a Parler-like cesspool, normal people like me will simply leave in droves. No, they won't. They literally won't.
They literally will. If they are allowed to be contradicted and evidence allowed to be shared, they literally will go. And it's almost foolish, though, contemplating it until or unless we see something more definitive.
And the thing is, another person wrote, if Elon buys Twitter, it just becomes Parler 2.0. Again, no, it doesn't, because it already has the base. Oh, here, let's hear what Space Rock's Brianna Wu has to say. The reason Truth, Social, and Gab, and all these other right-wing platforms have failed is smart people don't want to spend their time there. Well, how would you know about smart people? If Musk buys Twitter, dismantles everything the trust and safety team has done, many will go elsewhere. And
see, that's where the anti-whites, this is where you have their use of pretexts, trust and safety. And that, of course, means silence any voice that contradicts anti-whiteism. Any person or voice that isn't anti-white enough gets silenced, gets censored, and is effectively dead in a public square. And this is the public square of our age and moving forward for the foreseeable future.
Literally destroy Twitter. No, it won't. Again, like I said, won't happen. First of all, at no point has Elon Musk said that he's going to destroy the trust and safety stuff. At no point has Elon Musk indicated that he's going to change any of the policies. At no point has Elon Musk said that he's going to, shut down the leftists on Twitter.
They are not looking for that. The anti-whites, the leftists, the anti-whites are not looking for let's phrase it this way. What they're looking for is, if Musk is going to come in, he's got to be what? Anti-white enough. Has he villainy signaled that he's anti-white enough? No. So he doesn't have to say that he's going to do anything that would upset an anti-white. He doesn't have to say that at all. There's just the absence of him demonstrating that he's anti-white enough. It's a fucking cult, for God's sake. And so they're looking for this villainy signaling. And when they don't see it, they say, holy God, we can't allow this to happen. It's a shame that this guy, was it Jeremy, his name? It's a shame that he isn't going free and has a much better understanding, because he's talking to so many people, seems like a likable guy, and it just could not be more incorrect.
He's not, this is all just literal. This is these people's D-Day. I've seen quotes. Where is this one quote? It's absolutely insane. Glenn Greenwald.
And he's acting like, also, by behaving like this, and this is a typical conservative thing, patriot thing. It's glib, it's disgusting, and it is self-defeating, because he's acting like there's something wrong with these people becoming very emotional. No, we need to be very emotional. We need to be behaving in a very emotional fashion, like these folks. That's how you win. They've won. How much more evidence do you need, conservative world? No, we need to be as dispassionate as possible, and just have a stiff upper lip and act like this isn't happening to us.
I think pointed it out. Yeah.
So don't follow people into this same sort of behavior of, can you believe how just ridiculous and emotional they are now? Yeah, the problem is that you are not.
Is. Today on Twitter feels like the last evening in a Berlin nightclub at the twilight of the Weimar Germany.
What? My glasses. Jeff something. Jarvis? Today on Twitter feels like the last evening in a Berlin nightclub at the twilight of Weimar Germany? What kind of a sick SOB would talk about Weimar Germany in a positive sense?
Quote, and he writes, canceling my commitments for the day so I can watch liberals become more unhinged, hysterical, and panicked over the prospect that they might not be able to wield censorship power on Twitter. It's only 11 a.m. on the East Coast, and we're already at the bad guys from WW2 analogies.
No, this Glenn Greenwald is acting like he's got him here. He's got him. No, dumbass. This is what, if you conservative or Republican or whatever leadership misleading the good people of our countries. This is how you all have been talking and losing forever. You don't got them when you point out their behavior and that they are already bringing up the Nazi analogies. That's not success.
Everyone knows the evils that grew out of
this sort of conservative leadership, not conservative folks. Conservative leadership response is as predictable as their folks like Glenn Greenwald's impotence.
The Weimar Germany happened when book burning stopped and were replaced instead by a commitment
to
free speech and free expression of ideas. One more time, censorship was a weapon.
Unfortunately, Jeremy thought that was a great burn.
Used by the bad guys in WW2 and all fascists, not free speech. And it's just, I mean, the amount of unhinged lunacy that's been going on is hilarious. It's actually great. This is an actual sentence published last week by the Washington Post in a newspaper owned by Jeff Bezos. Musk's appointment to Twitter's board shows we need regulation of social media platforms to prevent rich people from controlling our channels of communication.
Oh yeah, of course. That makes
obligation owned by Jeff Bezos. Ultimately.
Oh boy, you got him again. You can't do this your whole lives, folks. You can't. You're not winning this way. Of course, that's going to be the argument that they're going to make. That we have to prevent rich people from controlling our lives. Why? Because all the TARDISes out there are going to say, yeah, and then they'll go to people at the workplace and they'll say the same thing. And those TARDISes out there will get violent and they'll be willing to kick your ass for what they believe in.
Ultimately, this is going to be an absolute.
Okay, well, I think we're done with this. He's wrong. Sorry, Jeremy. Probably a great guy. Folks who've told me about you say you're a great guy, and maybe we'll get at some point have you on the show. How does that sound? Reach out to me. Twitter unveiled its counterattack against Elon Musk on Friday. Using a strategy invented to repel corporate raiders in an attempt to block a takeover bid by the world's richest person. And of course, he's not the world's richest person. Fuck's sake. The people who print the money are the richest people. He's the wealthiest guy in the Chuck E. Cheese, which is a fast food restaurant for little children, the families, the people who have little children. And you go in there and you can get money. And the Chuck E. Cheese place prints the money for you. And then you can go around. You're Chuck E. Cheese rich inside the Chuck E. Cheese. That's what Elon Musk is. So they keep trying to build this up. Why? Because they need the boogeyman to be part of the narrative or part of the story in the anti-white narrative. That's what they're doing. I must be the only person that can see this stuff. And then nobody gives a shit. The strategy known as a poison pill would flood the market with the new shares if Mr. Musk or any other individual or group working together bought 15% or more of Twitter's shares. That would immediately reduce Mr. Musk's stake and make it significantly more difficult to buy up sizable portion of the company. Mr. Musk currently owns more than 9% of the company's stock. The goal is to force anyone trying to acquire the company to negotiate directly with the board. Investors rarely try to break through a poison pill threshold, according to securities experts. One said it would be financially ruinous even for him. But Mr. Musk rarely abides by precedent. Twitter said the mechanism would not stop the company from holding talks about a sale with any potential buyer and would give it more time to negotiate a deal that offers a sufficient premium. The pill, quote, does not mean that the company is going to be independent forever. It just means that they can effectively fend off Elon. So they're willing to do anything. It doesn't matter how much money that they will sacrifice because they're doing it for that spiritual, religious part of them. And in this case, it is based in a total hatred of Western kind. Mr. Musk, who is worth more than $250 billion and is the chief executive of Tesla and SpaceX, announced his intention to acquire the social media service on Thursday, making public an unsolicited bid worth more than $40 billion. In an interview later that day, he took issue with Twitter's moderation policies, calling Twitter the de facto town square, which it is, and saying that, quote, it's really important that people have the reality and the perception that they are able to speak freely within the bounds of the law. He also said he had a plan B if the board rejected his offer, though he did not share it. Analysts have said that Mr. Musk's bid, which offers significantly more per share than the current stock price, but is well below its peak last year, may undervalue the company. They have also raised concerns about, so do you see all of these different strategies about how to undermine him legally and illegally and ethically and unethically are going to be coming out of every corner. They also have raised concerns about Mr. Musk's ability to cobble together financing. If the board negotiated a deal with Mr. Musk, it could include a breakup fee, which would make Mr. Musk pay a sizable penalty if the deal falls apart. That might assuage concerns about his volatile nature getting in the way of closing a deal, some securities experts said. Well, let's see. Should we continue with this or not? Let me see what you all are saying. Over here on Entropy, we have the great Mrs. Jess Horst. Thank you so much, sister. $3 financial gift. She writes Promethean blessings. And a $10 financial gift from Mrs. Jess Horst as well, following it right up. A lot of distractions this week going into this weekend, always with the same agenda, white erasure. Yeah, very well said. Thank you for being one of our best and keeping your eyes open and letting us know what you're out there seeing in the world. All right. Let me see if over here. Okay. Always this Odyssey. Not doing good. I don't know what the deal is. Nobody over on Cash App. So those are all the comments there. Let me check in the live chat and see if there are any after Rory's. Bass guitarist is with us. RBN. Right. Jason tells the cold, hard truth. Yeah, I try as often as possible. All right. Great. Natarific is with us. So's Ian TD. Wilson. Wonderful to see you both. All right. I don't know if I should bother with any more of that. Musk seemed to be girding for a protracted fight when he notified the board of his bid on Wednesday. He said it was his best and final offer and that he would reconsider my position as a shareholder if it was rejected. But in an interview at the TED conference on Thursday, he acknowledged that he does not like to lose. And later in the day, he took to his favorite social media platform, quote, taking Twitter private at 5420 should be up to shareholders, not the board. He tweeted alongside a yes-no poll. All right, so it just goes back and forth here, telling the story of what's happening, I guess, in his effort to purchase and take private. I don't know, something, I guess it's going to end up probably in the 50-some billion dollar range. And we're going to hear, if you haven't heard it already, Elon will be making many more comments about this being a bigger fight about. I believe I've heard him say it's a free speech issue, and we heard it through the beginning of this video as well. But he faces insurmountable challenges. Well, I shouldn't say insurmountable. It's not totally impossible, but what it comes out the other side looking like might not be what it looked like going in. And the challenges are consequences, I was alluding earlier to, the individual units that compose the system. We view a system too often, especially us Westmen, as functioning in some ideal world. And then we ascribe motivations and etc. And that's how we end up with erroneous conclusions. And that's what people are doing here. You have to understand that the population that he's trying to work through when he's making these appeals about free speech or these broader appeals, that is taking place in the liquid of the population. And the liquid it's a current against anything that gets in the way of anti-whiteism. And so anybody's saying, well, what do we do then? If you've been around here for any amount of time, you've just failed your IQ test. We need to be in our own story, and we need to communicate that story to as many of our brothers and sisters as rapidly as we can. Because in interactions with anti-whiteism, our story, this narrative, the method of going free wins every single time. And it will be in that setting that somebody like a Musk can have success in a scenario like this. No matter how many dollars he has, he's not going to be able to swim upstream against the Colorado River. So what's his real motivation? Well, and there's not only that, he's also suddenly being investigated by the federal government. So what is it? It's like the DOJ and SEC, I think it is, have both immediately launched renewed investigations into Musk, and I believe they're targeting the company Tesla. So it's going to come from every angle with these anti-whites. It doesn't matter how illegal or unethical it is, and it doesn't matter how much you stomp your foot in the ground and say that it's not fair or look at the double standards. That doesn't succeed. Stop watching these folks. Start getting on board and making shit happen for white well-being. You know, go free or go to hell. That's the reality. Get busy, don't complain, and make it happen. So what is really motivating? What's really motivating Musk? I'll tell you right now. And I spent like 30 minutes today finding this clip. Musk loves Twitter. He uses Twitter to share his ideas, to insult, to punch back against critics, whether it be just folks, now with social media platforms and otherwise private, or big media companies, politicians. That's how he talks back. If he didn't have Twitter, he wouldn't be able to talk back. Not owning shares in Twitter left him susceptible to being kicked off that platform easily. Owning a big chunk of Twitter made it less likely. So now I surmise that it's possible that he doesn't have a real desire to buy all of Twitter and make it private. He just wants to possibly bring attention to the censorship so that he does not become a victim of it. And then he'll build that in order for you to take up his case, his argument, his position, his side. He'll then make it a broader battle against censorship and the right of free speech and that sort of thing. This is what I suspect is going on. And I was able to find this. Let's see if we can get this to work. No, that's not it. No. Where is it? Here we go.
I use my tweets to express myself. Some people use their hair. I use Twitter.
Well, but you use your tweeting to kind of get back at critics.
Rarely.
You kind of have little wars with the press.
Twitter is a war zone. If somebody's going to jump in the war zone, it's like, okay, you're in the arena. Let's go.
Okay. Who does that sound like?
I don't know. Who's it sound like?
It sounds like a guy who lives at the White House.
Oh, that guy. Yeah, sure. He's very good at Twitter.
I know.
I think the president is amazingly good at Twitter.
Do you see any similarities between you and him?
There aren't zero similarities.
Do you support him?
I think there are some things that I think are good, like the Space Force. But there are some things that I think are not good, like support for oil and gas.
And his position on the environment? Global.
And none of that's important anymore. So you got to hear right there. What I was saying is absolutely the case. Twitter is how he expresses himself. It's how he gets back at, has that conversation. And of course, yes, how he gets back at critics. So it's very personal for him. And that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. He should see what's happening to Western kind and Western civilization as a very personal thing to him. And if in his desire to be heard and express himself, if he ends up inadvertently benefiting us, then fantastic. That's wonderful. Where the anti-whites really blew it, and I'm going to get on to Gab here right now. Where the anti-whites really blew it is the fact that they should have reached out to Musk and assured him, we will never, ever kick you off Twitter. You have nothing. You never have to worry about that. You have a free pass to always be on Twitter. Say whatever you want. but they've become so doctrinaire about anti-whiteism that they could not see good strategy. They would not permit successful strategy to get in the way of their ideology, anti-whiteism. Long before he bought any shares, that's what they should have done. Very dumb on the part of the anti-whites, and that's because their ranks are being made up increasingly by people who are hired on the basis of their sex or on the basis of what they claim their gender is, or on the basis, just on and on. Basis of race, of course. Of course, we had here Andrew Torba immediately penned a letter. This morning, Elon Musk sent Twitter's board an offer to buy the entire company for $40+ billion. As I wrote last week, anything that explicitly has the aim of bringing more free speech to the internet for more people is a good thing. Twitter has legacy problems that Gab doesn't. They're fully dependent on third-party infrastructure. We are not. We, quote, built our own, close quote. Everything, hosting, email services, analytics, tools, e-commerce, payment processing, all of it. We built it all. You also have to consider that bringing free speech to Twitter isn't as simple as buying it. Apple and Google do not allow free speech. So if you stop the censorship, they will kick Twitter from both app stores. We already solved that problem and overcame it. Twitter operates in countries where mass censorship is required by law. They have offices in 3 countries. They have no choice but to comply with the censorship demands of those countries or risk being shut down, fines, etc. We understand this very well and have dealt with it, telling those countries to get lost. Then there is the problem of Twitter's community itself. It skews massively left, you should say anti-white, and thus anti-free speech. If you allow free speech on Twitter again, those people are absolutely going to leave. I agree with Andrew here, because their fragile worldview can't handle the reality that free speech brings. Another problem that Twitter has that we don't, total dependency on ad dollars. Gab's business model is not 100% dependent on advertising. We have several other revenue streams, including Gab Pro, Gab Shop, Gab Pay, and a payment process our payment processor, he writes. As a good friend pointed out rightfully to me this morning, quote, I highly doubt they will accept his offer. They would rather shares go to zero than hand over narrative control. Absolutely true of Torba's friend, whoever that is. If they do accept, they will sabotage internally and do whatever degree he makes good changes. Twitter will get the Gab treatment from the, and then this guy uses that very ugly term, globalization, homogenization. Should just say anti-whiteism. In light of, because then you identify the aggressor, they're anti-white, and the victim, white. Globo-homo, what the is that? That can be anything you want, any day of the week. In light of these truths, I'd like to offer Elon a counter offer. And again, we don't have the luxury of being able to talk to people 24/7 with news and entertainment media in their all of their life, everywhere they turn their heads. So you don't get to decide what that's going to be. The anti-whites will get to decide whether when you talk to our people, you have to reach them in a way that is productive for them, or you might as well not speak. In light of these truths, I'd like to offer Elon a counter offer to his very expensive and overpriced Twitter deal. Elon, I founded Gab in 2016 because I believe in its potential to be the platform for free speech around the globe, and I believe free speech is a societal imperative for a functioning constitutional federal republic. However, since founding Gab, I realized that in order to provide a free speech platform, you must also have free speech internet infrastructure. Gab has since transformed from merely a social network into a free speech internet infrastructure company. We built our own servers, our own email services, our own payment processor, and so much more, not because we wanted to, but because we had no choice if we were going to continue to exist. What we are missing at the moment is an ISP. I fear that the next big leap of censorship is at the ISP level, with ISPs blocking access to Gab.com. You solve the problem with Starlink. Together we can build infrastructure for a free speech internet. I am willing to offer you a board seat along with equity in the company in exchange for you selling your Twitter position and investing $2 billion into Gab. My offer is my best and final offer. Gab has extraordinary potential. Let's unlock it together. Andrew Torba, CEO Gab.com, and he adds that Jesus Christ is King. What are your thoughts? You can share them now before I wrap up, or share them in the thread below. Looks like we're blank on entropy, so didn't miss anybody there. I don't Odyssey yet. It's reloading. Grabler is over there on D Live. Hello. Yeah, it's just buffering for me. So I don't know if it's going to work or not. Let's see here. All right. Looks like we're blank on Cash App. Corey is with us. Machiavelli sucks. Great to see you both. Limon, Victorian Time Traveler. Wonderful to see you all. Rory saying it's a good point regarding the phrase globo homo. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Victorian Time Traveler says, just like Dr. Evil. Mwah. Apollo is with us. Eagle Heart. Great to see you both. I've been watching, and I think I'll share on Sunday when we come back together on Easter, and a happy Easter to all of you. I think I'll share the live feeds of the Eagles up here in DC, the Eagles Nest. They have a beautiful little chick and growing steadily, getting fat as can be. Pearl Lady says, I'm not sure about Elon, but I don't get the sense he's overtly anti-white, but I could be wrong. I haven't seen anything overtly anti-white, and either have the anti-whites. That's why they're so pissed. Bane is with us. Hello. Welcome. Well, it's the Casey's asking about the Chuck E. Cheese. Those little they're like tickets, right? I think I might have gone to one when I was a child. And the more of that you had, the richer you were, because you could buy their things with those tickets. All right. Well, my friends, a happy Easter to every single one of you. And I will be back on Sunday. We can hang out and have a good time then. Until then, I will bid you adieu. Roll out.